This is Geek Gab with your hosts, Dornall and me, Daddy Warpig. We are back. Geek Gab for Saturday, February 12th, 2022. Dornall, how was your week?
Hey man, it's been good. I don't have anything spectacular to report. Let's just say that the quiet life of working from home and playing Wingspan with my loved ones made it a satisfying week. Plus, we've got some great weather these days on the home front. I'm making some plans for my yard. I'm thinking about planting some trees this year.
Really? What
Why
kind of
not?
trees?
I think I'm going to do some fruit trees, apple and pear.
I'm sorry, that just ran into like three thoughts of mine. Like Johnny Appleseed was the thought I first had when you said fruit trees, and then you were like, "Oh yeah, I'm planning to plant some apple trees," and I'm like, "Ooh, Johnny Appleseed." And then it ran into the last movie I saw, which talked about apple trees, which I just saw a couple of nights ago, which was The Witch, the horror movie from 2016, which I just saw for the very first time like 2 days ago. And that was a whole subset of emotions right there.
This is
Between
that's why
like,
we do the show,
man,
man. This is an emotional roller coaster. Someone just has to say apple tree and we set you off.
oh, I've got all these thoughts swirling around in my brain, man. And these thoughts collide and we bring them out on the show. Yeah, I guess I could do a pocket review of The Witch. It's spooky, man. And it doesn't so much end as it just kind of stops. Doesn't have an ending. It just stops abruptly at one point. It takes this sudden left turn and stops. And you're like, wait, what? So, yeah, but it is really, really freaky.
I'm going to take your word for it.
Okay. My week was a little bit more eventful. There's this Amazon Lord of the Rings thing coming out. And Vanity Fair did an article on it, so they published some pictures. And I was on Facebook. I actually didn't know this to begin this story. I had no idea. I mean, I knew Amazon was doing this thing, and they apparently released some pictures, and some people were like making fun of it and stuff, but I didn't care enough to go see the original pictures. Apparently, they did like a gallery of 25 pictures of people's hands. Hey, here are like pictures of hands of 25 characters. I'd never
It's
heard of
inspiring.
that.
It's
Yeah,
inspiring.
never heard of that. And then they did some other commercial pictures that people were making fun of. And I caught like one meme of them making fun of it. And I was just like, whatever. I didn't even care. And then on Facebook, somebody posted one of the pictures from the Vanity Fair article that was like, Dwarf Queen from Amazon's Vanity Fair. And I thought, okay. It basically looked like um, Oprah Winfrey if she had Princess Leia buns that had grown so aggressively they were about to eat her entire head. So
That's just her weave, bub.
that just these huge buns all over the sides of her head, and Oprah Winfrey in a dress with cheap looking gold jewelry on it. It looked awful, just terrible costuming. Dwarf Queen, and so I reposted that on Twitter, and then a bunch of other people started chiming in. The most common comment of which was, "Where's her beard?" Because supposedly dwarf women in Middle Earth have beards and cannot hardly be distinguished from the men. Um, And I thought, well, that's getting a lot of people interested. Maybe I'll go see what the other pictures are. So I went and saw what the other pictures are, got a picture of Galadriel and got a picture of Elrond. Oh man, Elrond looked awful. I still haven't quite articulated what made Elrond so awful, but he looked like Doogie Howser's like long lost Sawyer twin brother. Um, and then Galadriel, who was played by Kate Blanchett in the movies, the shimmering, ethereal, sorceress beauty of Lothlorien, is drowning on a piece of wood and she's blowing stuff up and wearing this cheap, crappy tin. It looks like tin. It looks like tin that was cut out with tin snips. And I know from tin snips because in sixth grade, I had to use tin snips to cut out a piece of tin to make this little box for shop class. And it looked like mottled tin. Just an awful costume. Um, and she's walking around in this awful looking armor. And I just made a comment like, I bet this is this show's woke, super action chick. And then I said, I bet she's better than the men at everything. Because I'm thinking, hey, she's the Ray character, right? Better than everyone at everything. Better than Han Solo at flying the Millennium Falcon and fixing it. Better than Luke Skywalker at the Force. Better than everybody at everything. Well, apparently, and I say apparently because of the volume and vociferousness of the replies I got, uh, people got mad. I got enough salt dumped at my door to keep the entire town here well supplied into maybe even the next century. I mean, these people were butthurt enough to keep an army of proctologists in yachts for the next century. They were angry. And the comments, we're a family friendly show. So the comments, I can't repeat a lot of them, not because they're swearing, although most of them were swearing, but just because the concepts involved are not friendly for a family friendly show. I was just like, geez Louise, people. And this one lady got on and was just ranting at me saying, how dare you, criticize her appearance? And I'm like, I didn't even say anything about her appearance, about whether she was good looking or not, or whether the armor was feminine or not. I didn't say anything about the armor. I just said she was a super woke action chick who was, I bet, would be better than the men about everything. That's it. I said nothing. I tweeted nothing about her appearance. And so, you know, going forward, though, I don't gonna feel any remorse about commenting on an actress's appearance because it doesn't matter. Whether I say it or not, they're gonna lie and said I did in a reply to the very tweet where I did. So it's like, yeah, well, if you're just gonna lie about it anyway, it doesn't matter. I'll say whatever I want.
Yeah, that's the only philosophy. You can't, if anything other than bending a knee to exactly what they demand is to them is a complete blasphemy, and they just go complete scorched earth. So you might as well just throw gloves off in the first round. You know what I mean? That's what I do. I don't deal with these people at all. I say exactly what I'm thinking, and they deserve it. You know what I mean? There's just no there's no peace to be had with these people. They don't want to compromise. They hate us. They hate what we like. They want to deconstruct, destroy the things that we hold dear and we find meaningful, whether they be pop culture or folk art or classical things, or what have you. They want to tear down our statues. They want to tear down our culture. They want to tear us down, and they're completely radical about it. They're foaming at the mouth about it. So I have no mercy for these people. I have, it's just, and I think that anybody that tries to go in and have a let's meet in the middle conversation is gonna learn real quick that these aren't nice people, is what I'm getting at.
I'm glad you're having fun online with it, Daddy Warpig. But between the meet in the middle conversations and the responses you get, hey, don't get me wrong, man. Trolling folks like that is fun. But when you got to wade through all those replies, all I gotta say is play stupid games, win stupid prizes. That's why I canceled all my social media accounts.
The
Can't blame you.
funniest response I got, though, was someone said that Elrond looks like that camp counselor who wanted to give you the talk about the changes to your body. And I was like, oh, ouch. Not untrue. Ouch. So, yeah, that's what my week has been like for the last couple of days. And I'm not complaining. I mean, I just the tweet got quote tweeted by several people, and now I've got these big YouTubers who are quote tweeting it, and they're all upset, and I'm just like, dude, whatever. It's just like I'm waiting because my tweets about She-Ra showed up on BuzzFeed. I'm just waiting for someone to tell me I showed up in some YouTuber's video or showed up on BuzzFeed or something again, where they can call me out for being a misogynist and hatefully hate monger and all that.
That kind of makes me think. How long has it been that these weird culture war news sites just became Twitter aggregators? Bloggers and so-called journalists spend their whole lives online searching for salty or spicy tweets to put in a listicle or something like that. It's been forever, but I can't help but think that there are more productive jobs available in today's economy.
You'd think so. So, hey, do you want to introduce our guests?
Sure, I'd love to. You guys have been listening to Dave Martel, editor of the Bizarchives, a science fiction, short fiction magazine. You can find that. We got links to the Bizarchives online. Welcome to the show, Dave. You want to give us more?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, guys, for having me. As he said, my name's Dave Martel. I'm editor-in-chief of the Bizarchives, Weird Tales of Monsters, Magic, and Machines. We are a pulp fiction, and more specifically, a weird fiction publication that puts out. Our main publication is called the Bizarchives itself. That's our flagship. We have 2 issues. We just started last year, by the way. We are a new little outfit here, but we have 2 issues of the Bizarchives itself, which is a compilation of short stories written by aspiring authors in the traditions of sword and sorcery, science fiction, and cosmic horror. And we also put out novellas, and very soon we are going to start getting into reprints, and we got a lot of stuff lined up for this year. But we do pulp the way pulp's supposed to do. At least I think we do. And we work very, very hard to make sure that we're putting out good fiction, good art for the sake of good fiction and good art. No political nonsense, no social justice crap, just awesome stories about awesome stuff, weird monsters, heroes, sci-fi crazy, whatever you could think of, all the stuff that we love that was present in the old pulps, like Amazing Stories and Weird Tales magazine, is what we try to put out. So we are very much, as you could see Weird Tales of our main publication is very much a love letter to the old Weird Tales magazine, which we all know produced such greats as H.P. Lovecraft and Robert E. Howard and Clark Ashton Smith and Frank Belknap Long and Donald Wandre and so on and so forth. It was a tremendous publication, but that's what we do, and we love doing it. And we're getting into some other stuff as well. Like we have some aspirations to get into some other types of media, but as of right now, we're just doing the books. And we kind of came out. So I'll give you guys a little bit of a history. When the code, I don't know, do you guys have like a code word for the cough disease? So you don't, I don't know if you guys are cool with saying that on here.
We actually never do. I think we just straight up say COVID. We don't really talk about it.
Okay.
Other than how it has enabled the world to go completely mad.
I know.
Are we not supposed to say that on YouTube?
There's I've gone on certain shows. They say, hey, we don't say that. There's I know one guy, he says, he calls it the succulent Chinese meal. I know another guy calls it the Wuhan Koof, and I don't know, whatever. Whatever. If I go on a show, it's their house, I'll call it whatever they want. And a lot of these names are pretty hilarious. Succulent Chinese meal. But anyway,
does YouTube ban people for saying COVID?
Supposedly,
I know they.
Go ahead.
I know they ban people for all kinds of stupid stuff.
Well, I think they've been on a rampage the past couple of years. If you actually talk about it, like if you mention the word, or if you mention some of the verboten studies or possible treatments of it, they might have automated systems looking for that sort of content, or they might have people listening for that sort of thing. So, yeah, they've been on a rampage. There's stuff that you can't talk about.
Yep. So, apparently you get shadow banned or whatever. My show, we just say it straight up. We've been shadow banned for the last 100 years, so I'm not even worried about it. But effectively what happened is when COVID hit, I lost my job, unfortunately, with the lockdowns. Luckily, my state has since opened up, and my fellow Pennsylvanians over here have been pretty defiant and not caring about any of this stuff. So they had to lift it pretty early. So things are mostly back to normal, except for our economy. Our economy is still kind of struggling, not to get into all that stuff. But when it happened, I lost my job. I'm kind of stuck in the house. It was just lousy, right? You guys, everybody experienced this.
Yeah.
So I took a little bit of money from my stimulus check and I put it together and I put out a thing on social media. And I said, hey guys, I want to do something that's kind of like Weird Tales magazine. You guys want to submit some stories? And I got some really awesome guys that submitted some really cool stories. And I used a little bit of money to start the thing up with the website and the cover art. Cover art's done by Mr. Donald Kent, who's a tremendous artist. At least the Bizarchives 1 and 2 is. This other one is done by my friend, the Light of Decay. He's a tremendous graphic artist and stuff like that. So we put a lot of stock into making sure our covers look good. We really, really like paying and involving artists and
yeah, I dig this. What'd you say, Mr. Kent? I like this. He's got a really cool, just comic book style.
Yeah, yep. That's kind of what we wanted to go for. Originally, we wanted to make it look like Weird Tales and everything like that, and we kind of just went in the direction to make it kind of look comic-y a little bit, because we wanted to introduce it to a new generation, right? And people are more familiar. If you show a 23-year-old guy, I don't know, a Dark Horse comic, and you show him a cover to Amazing Stories or something, and you say which one of these types of art is more familiar, he's going to say the Dark Horse comics, right? Comics are just more familiar, and that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to bring pulp to a newer, younger generation and kind of revitalize it. So that's kind of why we went with that artistic direction, and people really have liked it, and I like it, and I think it I think they look really, really good, and I'm very proud of them, and very proud of Mr. Donald Kent for the tremendous work that he's done. Which this issue right here, issue 2, by the way, has interior art as well, black and white interior art. It's almost like a love child between Weird Tales magazine and Heavy Metal magazine. So it's like kind of like a blend of these two things that we used to. Those of us that are grognards, old school millennials, and Gen Xers remember those kinds of things like Heavy Metal magazine. But anyway, I got a little bit of money left over from my stimulus check, and I started this thing up, and it kind of grew legs, and we grew this little tiny community around it, and folks bought a bunch of copies, and it got picked up by some other folks like that have YouTube channels and different platforms, and it kind of grew legs, and I was completely blown away with our debut of our first book, and it sold far more copies than I thought it was going to sell, and people loved it. So I was like, we got to do another one now. We can't just that can't just be it. So we've been getting going, and I've been grinding on it and trying to sell books and get it out to people. And so far we have sold hundreds and hundreds of copies in over a dozen countries, and we are featured in 4 or 5 different storefronts, and it's just been all us. We've just been doing it, and it's just growing on its own. It's just been such a blessing to watch this cool little idea that we all loved and worked on together truly just blossom into a legitimate publishing operation. So that's what we want to do, and we want to write stories that are for regular people to make reading cool again. So we write this short form for folks that because we're coming into a time that is not unlike when the pulps were around during the Great Depression and the Dust Bowl and the economic crash and all that kind of stuff. While we don't have necessarily those same circumstances, we have very similar circumstances. We're living in an age of upheaval. People don't really have time to sit and read books as much anymore. They don't have a lot of times. People are kind of there's so many other distractions between TVs and movies and video games and their social media. So this short form really works for folks that really want to get back into reading, but necessarily don't have time to crack open something like Dune or Lord of the Rings or Wheel of Time or something of that nature. So this is casual short form fiction, but it's high energy and it's super weird and it's thoughtful, and it's I'm just very, very proud of it, and I hope that people out there that pick up a copy love it as much as we do.
I think you've come to the right place. We've been talking to a lot of guys who've been into reviving the pulps. As you have found out in the past year, you are not alone. Have you heard of the magazine Kursova?
Absolutely. I've actually chatted with I can't remember his name, the guy that does it, Kursova. I actually have a few copies of Kursova. I really, really love it. There's quite a few authors in there that I like. I like I mean, we could go all into the different authors and stuff. And I also I'm a fan of DMR Books, old Dave Ritzlin and his operation over there. I have quite a few of his books. I think they're just awesome. He does great sword and sorcery stuff. There's so many cool ones out there. I could be here for 20 minutes shouting out everybody I think has a cool book out. But you're right. The pulp is coming back, and it's coming back, and it's like the same. It's not like it was back in the 20s and 30s during the golden age. It's something different. This is something this is underground. This is punk rock, heavy metal, kind of, this is it's a little gritty. It's got some attitude. It's kind of edgy and raw. And, it's one of our writers that writes on our Substack. He put in a quote. I can't remember the guy that did it, but some author or philosopher or something. And he said, the working class is lumpy with talent. And that's what I have found is I get a lot of these. I read tons and tons of submissions, and I'm not trying to rag on anybody, but a lot of the submissions we get, especially from Americans, have some. They're not really that well polished. There'll be a lot of stories that have some grammatical errors or that just need tightening up, or they're not familiar with formatting rules and stuff like that. But the concepts and the storytelling and what's the meat and potatoes of the stories themselves from these guys they'll send me an email like, "Hey man, I'm just a welder, or I'm just a carpenter, or I'm this or that, and this is my first time trying to write a story since high school or whatever, and I hope you guys liked it." And they send this very cool, humble thing like, "I love you guys. You know, I hope you guys enjoy this." And we read it, and it's like, that was a good ass story. I mean,
Mm.
and it's that's the spirit of the pulp right there, in my opinion. It's not haughty, it's not uber polished, it's not from the ivory towers of academia. It's by the people, for the people, Joe Schmo, jerk off, all of us united together to read and write and engage in a tradition of exciting, fantastical, imaginative, just awesome stories. And that's what the pulp is about, and that's why I love it. And it was just, I thought when I started Bizarchives, I was like, I don't think that anybody else is doing this. And I go out and I pop out on Twitter and like all the different, I was like, wow, there's a ton of people doing this. This is great. I mean,
That's awesome, and the hunger is there. People want it. You said something really interesting about the submissions that you're getting.
mhm,
So your role right now is you're an editor and you're putting that together.
mhm.
What kind of, if I hear you correctly, you're getting a lot of submissions from people with a lot of ideas and desire, but just not polished. Like these aren't professional authors.
No.
Are you
So
having trouble, or how are you doing getting them the editing they need? Or are you just rejecting them and being like, hey man, get an editor. This is good shit. Get an editor and send it back. Or how much are you facilitating the growth of the actual quality of the writing?
not only do we do the editing, I'm just editor in chief. I have my lead editor, Mr. Cypress Walter. He does all of the editing, and then we have layout, and we have several members of the Bizarchives crew that also aid with editing. They, proofreading and so on and so. We have a whole crew of guys that go on with this, and not only do we help edit guys' stories. The Bizarchives is partnered with a little organization called the Midgard Institute of Fantasy and Science Fiction Literature, and the Midgard Institute has a program called the School for Scribes. So we offer free resources and a little bit of tutoring for guys that really want to get into and become serious with their writing. So if you put in a story and it's a good story, but you need a little bit of work with your polish and your technical skills, we'll help you out. We'll bring you into chats. We'll send you emails. We'll send you links of we have you can go to the I believe it's midgardinstitute.wordpress.com and click on School for Scribes, and there's all kinds of like when to use punctuation, capitalization, like different just like very basic stuff to brush up on, and it's very short and succinct and to the point. And he uses Mr. Cypress, my lead editor. He is very enthusiastic about the English language, so he loves using examples that were from olden times, and he's big into like Old English and Middle English and just like the history of the English language and stuff like that. So he puts a lot of effort into making these nice bite-sized but really really cool teaching resources for guys that have the spirit and the passion and the talent but don't really have the skills. The skills can always be taught. If you're a sharp guy and you have the talent and the imagination and the drive and the hunger to do this, you can always clean up your writing. I have cleaned up my writing. Mr. Cypress has helped me from our first issue till now, and my stories that I'm writing now are just like night and day compared to my first ones. So you will notice as the Bizarchives go on, the authors that appear in our stories, they get better over time. And it's not just that. We have like it's almost like our authors, where it's like we have like a different kind of vibe. It's like a mannerbund. It's like a brotherhood. We're like a bunch of bros. And in fact, a lot of the guys in England, we're kind of like 50-50 between American writers and English writers. Our English writers like to meet up and do spiritual things and go do things like that, and they've become friends in real life now because of it. So it's a really really cool thing. It's not just a publication. It's a community and a friendship and a brotherhood and kind of a little movement, I guess you could say. So yeah, we don't. If you put in a story, we don't just reject you. We try to help people because we want to breed a whole new generation of awesome storytellers.
That's fantastic. Uh, that's kind of heartening for me to hear about the people meeting up in real life. Like we were talking about, world gone crazy, and sitting around with your stimulus money. What do? Hey, you create a place where people can get together. That's something we need, and stories are something we need. All right, I'm done editorializing. I also want to know about a little bit more about the business, because you got all these writers coming in, and we've known for years that even if you're going to make a living as a writer, most people can't. But
Yeah.
short fiction has not been a way to make a living as a writer since the pulps. It's been
Yeah.
about 100 years. Uh, so how is it for these writers? Is everybody sort of coming in like realistically, or are you seeing what's the market like? There's a lot of passion for these stories, but is there a lot of business in it? Are people really satisfied with what they're getting out of it?
Do you mean the readers or the writers?
The writers.
So I can't fully answer this question because we're such a new publication. I don't even know what our we're not there yet. We're not eating off this quite yet. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So we've got a ways to go. So I can't answer that all the way. However, we are implementing a little bit of a different business model than what is traditional. Short form fiction tends to sell very well. It's an easy sell. It's something that you can people will impulse buy because it's generally a lower price point. It's just an easier sell. It's like it's just the nature of the beast. Somebody is going to buy a small book for $8 before they buy a huge tome for $35. It's just the way that it is. So the problem with this, in my opinion, and this is something that we're implementing or we're beginning to implement, is that we still use the old school pulp model of paying our authors. And before I started Bizarchives, I had a few stories. I was shopping around and I was trying to give them to these different publications, and they would be like, "Oh, this is a great story. I'll give you $80," or "Hey, here's a great story. I'll give you $110." And I'm like, most authors that are kind of in the semi-professional kind of feel, they go for that because you get paid per word or whatever. And nothing against people that do that, because that's kind of how the industry's been for a long time. The problem with that is, first of all, I kind of disagree that the idea that a story is valuable because of its number of words is just a bad metric to measure how much a story is worth. Because I've read stories that were 1,200 words that I thought were like some of the best stories I've ever read in my life. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We're just, for example, like H.P. Lovecraft. Who's going to say that H.P. Lovecraft never wrote a full-length novel? He's only really wrote short-form stuff. Nobody in a million years is going to say, oh, well, his stuff is worth less than, say, I don't know, Wheel of Time or something like that, right? Nobody's gonna say that because Lovecraft was such an innovator. His stuff was so powerful, right? But back in the day, he got paid per word, and we're still using this model. And I believe that it's an outdated model. So what we are implementing is what we are calling the Writers Guild. Instead of us, we first of all, I wanted to have consistency in our book. I didn't want to cut guys checks. They go loose. I don't see them again for another 6 issues. And then my books are all over the place. There's no consistency. And I didn't want that. I wanted writers to be invested in this. I wanted writers to be part of the clan, the Bizarchives clan, and consistently contribute to us. So what I've developed is what I call the Writers Guild. And the way the Writers Guild works is, you write with us for however long. And after so long, we invite you into the guild, and you get you are required to write a story for each issue of Bizarchives, which is quarterly, and then you have just some other um light duties, like perhaps like, hey, could you help proofread this story, or hey, could you um help email this person, or just like very small little tasks that we ask you to fulfill. And then when you are a member of this guild, you get a portion of all profits. I believe it's 10%. You get 10% of all Bizarchives profits forever, as long as you are in that guild. But it is invite only. It's not really like it means that you're a person that we want a part of the foundation of the Bizarchives. And what we're hoping to achieve with this is that over time, once we're getting the big money and we're eating off of this, we got a bunch of guys that are like stakeholders in the Bizarchives, and they are part of it. You know what I mean? It's not like they're just like people that we could just fire or whatever. It's not like they're just like, here's your check, bye, I'll see you next time you need a small check. So what we're hoping to achieve with this is giving guys, instead of like giving peanuts to a lot of people, giving large portions to a few people that are loyal and that give to the spirit and the flavor of Bizarchives. So that's kind of the system that we're going to implement.
So it sounds like in return for getting more reliable people and getting people a little bit more cash for the work that they're writing, you're also building a stable, or you would like to build a stable.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Do you have now I love that you were talking about how you focus on the weird stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You're into the pulps, but you really like the weird stuff. So are you sticking with that as a theme or a house style or something like that? That is going to be your continuing focus?
Yeah. Like I says on the website, if you send us a really awesome high fantasy story, or a really awesome just kind of planetary romance, or just like whatever, if you send us an awesome story, I'm not going to turn away an awesome story. But when it comes to our overall overarching theme, yeah, we focus on weird fiction. And we can get into what weird fiction is and how it's a little bit different than your standard pulp fiction, if you'd like.
I'd love to hear that. I want to know your perspective. What is weird fiction to Dave?
Okay, so um okay, where can we start with this? Well, everybody here knows what pulp fiction is, right? Pulp is, it used to be a medium. It used to be the physical medium that was used to print the stuff. But now it's kind of a vibe, right? It's kind of an umbrella genre, and it's kind of like just like a vibe. Well, weird fiction, in my view, and this is my definition. People out there can debate it and say different things or whatever. This is just my take on it and what it means. Weird fiction is a little bit of a variant from pulp fiction, because in pulp fiction you get a lot of very straightforward, standard kind of stuff. This is where you get your Doc Savage and your gangster noirs and your cowboy stuff, and it's where you get kind of your everything, right? Weird fiction. Go ahead.
Most of the pulps uh, that survive more than single digit issues published adventure fiction, and back in the day, fantasy, science fiction, um, boxing stories, air stories. All of these were settings for adventure fiction, pirate stories.
Correct.
Like Kidnapped and The Count of Monte Cristo, Three Musketeers, Treasure Island. These are all adventure stories, and so the pulps, when they came along, they had very highly specialized magazines with specific settings for adventure stories. And weird fiction was the fiction that focused on kind of your horror, creepy, darker end uh, of these different settings. So it
Mhm.
could be out and out supernatural, or it could be science fictional that is focusing on technology, fictional technology or whatever. Um, but that's what Weird Tale did. They would publish science fantasy, they would publish science fiction, they would publish anything as long as it had that, you know, creepy, fantastic vibe to it. And they were the magazine all through the 30s. They were tops. The only time I just read the first of J.D. Cowan's articles last night um, on fandom. He was talking a lot about this in sales numbers and stuff. But yeah, the pulps, when you want to talk about the magazines coming out, they were adventure stories. They were entertainment. They were to keep people, uh, to bring them some excitement and some, um, you know, bring them some thrills and chills and mortal peril and all kinds of awesome stuff. And uh, even horror stories. We tend to think of horror like The Witch, the movie I talked about at the beginning of the show, right? Where it's just all atmosphere and spookiness, and those aren't bad. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but even um, I'm going to pause and let you go on because I have to deal with something.
Okay.
I'm done.
All right. Yeah, so Daddy Warpig's absolutely right. Pulp was adventure stuff. It was he mentioned actually he says thrills and chills. We say that if you go look at our website, that's what we say pulp is about. It's about the thrills and the chills, and that's exactly what it is. Pulp is experiential. It's about adventure. It's about experience. It's about fun. It's like it's like Chad fiction. It's fiction for Chads, is what it is. Not to say that the ladies can't like it. You know, I mean, there's pulp out there for the ladies, but for the most part, pulp fiction is Chad fiction. And when we get into weird fiction, I actually have, and Daddy Warpig's absolutely right. It delves into things that are stranger or darker, or I would actually say uncanny or psychedelic. And so when we get into what is weird fiction, now that we've defined pulp fiction, everybody knows what that is. We have to kind of we got to do a little bit of dive into some etymology and some Indo-European metaphysics. So when we think of the word weird, we have to trace that word back to what it means. The word weird goes back to the old Saxon word weird, WYRD. Those of you that have read or seen Macbeth will remember the Weird Sisters, who are a kind of a cognate to the Norns that are found in the Poetic Edda. And what the Norns represent, which is past, present, and future, being Skuld, Verdandi, and Urd, which are the three Norns found in the Poetic Edda. They weave the web of weird. The web of weird, which is also called Urlog. Urlog is an ancient Germanic word that means overlaw or natural law, or if for folks that are familiar with Vedic theology, will understand this as Urta or Dharma. And what these words are referring to effectively are the governing laws of our reality. These are the forces of externality that order our reality of the natural world, not natural as in the material world, but natural as in all things material, immaterial, and other, as well as the immanential processes therein, all of the things that order reality. And if people are listening, are like, what the heck is this guy talking about? Think about it like this. Fate and time are laws of reality, like how gravity and inertia are laws of reality. Um, anywhere you go in the universe, gravity and inertia and mass and all that kind of science stuff, that those laws apply. The same thing goes for fate, time, so on and so forth. So that's what these things are referring to. The web of weird is the determining mechanics of reality. It is fate. It is all of these things. It is what orders our reality. So when you say, now fast forward to now, when you say something, you say, that's weird. What you're referencing is that word, weird, the web of weird. So when you say that's weird, that is something that kind of obscures the law, the ordering laws of reality. That is something that's kind of sidestepping what we understand to be quantitative in our reality. So what you're saying is this is something that's kind of off, right? This is something that's kind of uncanny. This is something that's kind of psychedelic, that kind of sidesteps the laws of reality. And that's why I think when you say that weird fiction is something that focuses on the darker, or something that focuses on horror or something, and while those things are true, I don't think that those words kind of define weird fiction in its totality. What we're looking for in weird fiction is that quality of surrealness, that quality of this is kind of real but kind of not, and it gives me that weird feeling. Because there are a lot of weird fiction stories that are not like, they don't have, they're not gory, they're not violent, they're not dark, there's no ghosts or anything. It's just a story. It could be an uplifting story, but the qualities to it are strange. The vibe, the atmosphere are kind of uncanny and unsettling or weird. But it also can absolutely go into the idea of horror, the idea of sci-fi. I think to me, and this is a can of worms, and this might get turned into a big argument, but when I think of sci-fi, proper sci-fi, I think of earthbound stories that are warnings of technology, because science fiction came at a time where man was unsure and unsettled and had a little bit of a nervousness with his future in a technological society. He had concerns about the technological future and where they were going, and a lot of that stuff we could get all into, kind of how prophetic some of this stuff was. But that, to me, that is science fiction. When we get into like stuff that's like, John Carter of Mars and Dune and so on and so forth, like, I think that those things are great and I love those stories. But to me, those are fantasy stories. Those aren't science fiction, because there's no like nature of Luddism in there. So that is why I find science fiction, and obviously cosmic horror is my favorite horror genre, and that certainly has to go into weird fiction because of its uncanny psychedelic philosophies behind it. And then also sword and sorcery. Sword and sorcery is like, it goes in there too. So that long story short, that's my whole take on the nature of weird fiction.
Love it. Just to paraphrase, make sure I understand what's going on. The weird fiction is you've got a setting or occurrences that imply or show that the way we understand reality is either wrong or, in a lot of cosmic horror examples, meaningless. That it's sort of a nihilistic. We thought we understood how the world works. Here's how it works in this story, and wouldn't that be strange? Wouldn't that be weird if this happened?
Yeah. Well, that's really the draw of cosmic horror. Like it's pretty much saying, like, what if our entire understanding of our reality, the basic fundamental ordering rules of our reality, are all wrong? Like, what if it's all upside down? What if there's something that exists? And this is where he gets into the kind of like Lovecraft, for example, gets into these kind of Platonic ideas that there are beings that exist that are bigger than the universe and like just aren't even aware of us. That's the part of Lovecraft, and that's part of cosmic horror that really freaks people out, because it's not like, ooh, the spooky thing, or ooh, the scary or the gory, and some of that's in there, but it's on a fundamental philosophical level. It shatters the human ego because since there's like some pretty scratch noise going on. Oh, sorry about that. But what was I saying?
Oh,
I
you're
forget
talking
what
about we were talking about the effect it has, the weird fiction has on
Oh yeah,
the ego, tearing down the ego.
yeah, because in modernity, one of the world religion that has come out of modernity. When I say modernity, I mean the industrial age. This is the age where, and then also fiction reflected all of this. In the ancient times, they told stories of man versus nature, right? And then when we get into kind of pre-modern eras, they start telling the story of man versus self, right? And then we get into now, or at least like very recently, man versus machine. And what this is effectively the concept of humanism becoming the world religion. Nietzsche was a lot of people misunderstand Nietzsche when he said that God is dead. He wasn't applauding or cheering for the death of God. What he was saying is that man no longer truly believes in God and has killed him and has placed himself wrongfully upon the throne of God, and therefore will reap the consequences of this. And he was absolutely right with this critique of the direction of man's understanding of reality, is that man now worships himself. Man is now God, and man's condition is the highest ideal. It's no longer the greater good. It's no longer the laws of nature. It's no longer some divine presence. It's now whether or not I'm safe or comfortable, or if I can fulfill my pleasures, and so on and so forth. So what has happened in the modern world with industrial society and humanism becoming the new world religion is that the highest ideal is ego, is self. And what cosmic horror does is it forces the reader to take his presupposition that he is the highest, him and his comfort and his condition are the highest ideal, and reduces it down to a worthless grain of sand in a vast on a vast desert, and says that there is something that is so far above you that it doesn't even know you exist, and if it did, it wouldn't care. You're just like an ant, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. You have no power. And that is what freaks us out so much. And that is why cosmic horror is probably the weirdest of the weird fictions.
And I'm glad you mentioned that humanist religion, because cosmic horror is a great sort of hold a mirror up to that and say, hey, look, it's your part in this world is very small, and it's and if I could digress, because this thought just came to mind and I'm just going to
Go
do
ahead.
it. That is one of the, I think, most important and appealing aspects of Christianity in the West, because it's interesting that cosmic horror came out of, is part of Western fiction, because uh, that's the one religion that teaches that we are, flawed and small and tiny, but that the most important, the most powerful thing that exists, God, actually cares about us and loves us. And the cosmic horror is a great way to look at it from the other way and saying, what if nothing mattered? What if nobody cared? And that's where you get that sort of unsettling feeling when you're reading that sort of thing, and you go, wow, that's a weird, that's a scary, that's a dark universe.
Yeah. I don't want to get too far into like a theological debate and stuff, because me personally, I'm not a Christian, but yeah,
Mm.
I respect guys that are Christians, but
I got that vibe. I love the way that those philosophies overlap,
mhm.
the way they come at it from a different perspective. Um, Fantastic. let's see. I wanted to ask more about. Well, tell me, what are your favorite submissions so far? I'm going to put you on the spot. I hope not too many of your authors are listening that you might have a favorite.
Oh man. Okay, so I kind of gotta break them up a little bit. Now I'm gonna we have to take like the dad loves all his kids equally kind of position.
Yep.
But me personally, I do have preferences, and there are certain stories that just hit with me personally a little bit harder than others. I've learned to be more objective when reading these stories. So it's like, this isn't really my genre. This isn't really something I would go for, but this is objectively a good story, and this must go in. But me personally, when we look at Bizarchives 1, my favorites in there are probably I really love Tanner's Gold. Tanner's Gold was probably my favorite in there. I loved Baby Teeth. I love Shot at Redemption. Those are great stories. Obviously, there's just the White Dragon is tremendous. M.S. Jones is such a good author. That we have we got really blessed in that we got some really top-notch guys. So it's really hard, it's really tough to pick. But probably Tanner's Gold and Bizarchives 1 is my personal favorite. It's also, I think, the first story that was submitted. I think it was our first story.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's still my favorite of the short stories. And then in Bizarchives 2, I really love let me think what all's in there. I love The Sound from Beneath by C.J. Miller. That's the last story in the book. I believe it starts out, it says that this is a story lovingly crafted. And he writes this story in the style of Lovecraft. And I'm telling you, if I sent this story to you and it said H.P. Lovecraft underneath the title, you wouldn't know the difference.
Oh.
This is he just so brilliantly emulated his style, and it's such a good, weird story. That's a great story, man. And then also, let me think what else is that. I really love Stranger in the Morgue. Stranger in the Morgue was such a cool little creature feature. That was such a cool story. There's just so many.
Oh, I love it. And these are all these regular guys who just wanted to submit some fiction, and it turns out they had really good ideas.
Well, some of these guys have been trying to get into the industry for a long time and kind of got blackballed.
Yeah.
Or they just got to, for example, our one author, M.S. Jones, who's in all of the Bizarchives, and we're about to release, he has a full fantasy novel series, epic fantasy novel series called The Chronicles of Heraldria, which is going to be coming out very soon. He's been sending his manuscripts to publishers for years, and he just always gets rejected. And if you go in and read his stories, and you'll be like, what the heck were these guys thinking? You know what I mean? He's a tremendous writer. Tremendous writer. He's better than 90% of the modern stuff that's coming out, and they just completely ignored him. They're lost because we're putting him out there, and folks are really starting to see the talent level on this guy. And then some of them are guys that pursued it, and along the way they got into a different work field, or they got married and kind of left it behind, and they're picking it back up. It's everybody's got a little bit of a different story about what they're coming. Some of the guys, like in Bizarchives 2, we have a really cool story called Grim and Serpent, and it's about a Viking that gets trapped in this weird in-between world. And the whole story is effectively he has his beef with this big sea serpent. He crafts a spear, takes a boat out, spears the serpent, has a big epic battle, drags it on shore, and chops it to pieces. And the story's great. It's just a great story.
Awesome.
This guy, he's like a craftsman. He does leather working and all this kind of stuff. He's not he hasn't written a story in years, and he wrote that, and it just this is a great story. You know what I mean? So you don't even know what you're gonna get with some of these guys. You read their email and it says, "Hey, I'm a plumber. Hey, I'm a welder," and then you crack open 2,000 to 6,000 words of something that's really, really great. So that's just kind of the way that it is. And also,
That's fantastic.
I'm in there too. I write stories in there too.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
I love hearing that there's a big untapped reservoir of ideas and talent out there, and it's like we were talking about with the editors before. It's tough to turn that into a really good product, but I mean, all the guys who are trying to get into the industry, I mean, if they've been paying attention for the past 10, 15 years, there's no industry anymore. The industry that was there is like the big publishers are collapsing, into one, two, or three, and Amazon, of course, has changed ebooks, and print on demand is so mature that you can get decent quality cheap books out easy to anybody in the world. It's great. It's great. But we're running out of time. But I did want to ask you about this other thing. We haven't talked about this cosmic horror double feature much, and this is by a single author. Can you tell me more about that?
So A. Cuthbertson is like I said, he wrote Tanner's Gold, which was like the first story that we received in our submissions, and he's also the first guy for us to put out his debut thing. We're gonna get into we're gonna start publishing novellas, like 40 to 60 pages, short novellas with very low price points. That's kind of the direction that we're going to go in. And this was kind of our prototype of it. And it did very, very well. The Cosmic Horror double feature is 2 stories that he wrote. And these stories are awesome. They are just awesome. If you like the Lovecraftian tradition, you are going to really like these stories because they're not clones. They're not in the Cthulhu mythos, which I love the Cthulhu mythos. We all do, but these are kind of his own flavor. And he's an Englishman. He's from a very unique part of England. He's from North England. He's a little group. They're called Geordies, and they're kind of on the border with. They have like a lot of influence from Scottish and Norwegian culture. So they have this really colorful accent and all this kind of stuff. But he writes these stories with this very strong English flavor. And the 2 stories that are featured in the double feature are Dredge and Prestwick's Project. Dredge is effectively about a group of English tough guys that get hired by this Dutch venture capitalist that is draining out their bogs, and it shines a light on a lot of the struggles of the English working class during this time period when they're just kind of getting like ripped off by industrialists. And it really shines a light on a piece of history that isn't really politically correct anymore, because poor working class British people aren't really the poor puppy dogs that they want to shine a light on. But so it's really cool insofar as it shines a light on these like cultural historical things. But effectively the story is that these tough guys help out this contractor. Turns out that he's draining these bogs to get to this weird otherworldly artifact, and calamity ensues. It's a great story. Prestwick's Project is a story that I have never seen these concepts before, and I've read a lot of cosmic horror. It blends like it has like mad science vibes. It is this critique of pop science. It's about these students that go to this modern industry, or this university, and you can see in the artwork there, it's kind of like it's kind of showing this brutalist architecture of a modern university getting all jammed together and ripped apart and all jumbled. But it's about these guys, and they get selected to work with this pop scientist who is sort of in the vein of somebody like Bill Nye or Neil Tyson deGrasse, whatever his name is, or one of those goofballs. And they're so excited to work with this guy. He's popular. He's like an Elon Musk or something like that. And they get working with him, and it turns out that he's doing something pretty weird by putting in like strange frequencies, and it blends realities, and there's these interdimensional entities that come in, and it's so weird. It's mind-bending, time shifts, geometry shifts, and it is cosmic horror in a way that I've never seen it. And if you are a fan of the cosmic horror genre, you got to get that book. You're really going to like it.
Dang. I don't even like cosmic horror, and I'm ready to pick it up.
Yeah. It's great. They're great. It's a great book. I like to think that all our books are great books.
That's the spirit. Oh, actually, I'm sure there are with how quickly you've become popular amongst the readers. I think I've tapped myself out today.
Mhm.
I want to open it up to you. Anything that we haven't talked about that you need to get off your chest? Anything else you want to talk about today, Dave?
No, I just want to say thank you guys so much for letting me come on and run my mouth and hoot and holler about this about our publication, because I truly just love this project, and I know that you guys out there that love old school pulp. If you pick up a copy, I hope that you love it as much as we do, and you enjoy yourself and you get some cool old school weird creepy vibes from it, and you like it. And not just us, but guys, if you're listening, it is so important, so important for you guys to support indie publishing, indie pulps. You gotta support it. It's for you, like it's like a couple bucks, like what, 5 to 20, $15 or whatever to buy a book. You spend that when you go out to eat. You spend that on in the drive-through going home from work. That's like it. Like let's be honest here. When you pick up a copy of somebody's book, whether it's the Bizarchives or Cursova or DMR or all of the awesome publications that are sprouting up all over the place, you like really contribute to the success and the continuation of a truly beautiful literary tradition that is unique to our epoch, and that people are going to love for a long time. So guys, buy the books, leave reviews, support your favorite publications. Just let's keep this thing going. And to you guys that do, much love and many blessings to all of you. And thank you guys so much for having me. And that's all I got.
Oh, thanks so much. I love to hear about it. Love to hear about this project. Thanks so much for coming on. I don't have anything else to add, so I'm just going to say I think you've got a bunch of new fans. We love indie pubs out here on the Geek Gab. We've had a great lively chat. I really appreciate everybody coming on and chatting in. I think we got a couple of your English readers joining us today. Welcome, guys. I hope that was great show. I hope everybody listening later gets a chance to check out the Bizarchives. And hopefully by then you guys have produced another couple of books. Daddy Warpig, I'm going to leave the floor to you. Anything else you want to talk about before we end the show?
Oh, yeah. Real quick in the chat, they're asking where to find it. You guys can go to thebizarchives.com and just click on the stuff here. You can buy it on Amazon. It's also available Books A Million. And if you're in another country, there's several other distribution outlets that carry it. I believe Walmart carries. It's in a bunch of different stores. If you want to follow us on Twitter or Telegram, it is just at the Bizarchives. If you want to submit a story, the bizarchives@gmail.com.
Do you sell ebooks?
Yeah, we have ebooks, ebook versions of everything that we got out so far.
Okay. Want to apologize to the audience for the bit of noise from my end of the mic. Had a small emergency I had to deal with, so the noise was my fault. I do apologize for that. The emergency is taken care of. No big deal. I want to thank our guests for coming on. It's been a great show. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Want to thank everybody who came in and listened live, participated in the chat. Great discussion, as always. We have some news. Speaking of authors, we have coming in April, and I know that's way out there. I was hoping to get this done earlier. But coming in April, Sky Hernstrom is coming back on the show. Who is one of my favorite indie authors, and also J.B. Jackson is coming on the show, also in April. And we've got some other authors that we are trying to get on the show. On March 5th, we will have the return of one of the first few interviewees we had on the show. Author Larry Correa will be coming back.
The mountain what writes.
So, Larry Correa will be coming back on the show. He's got a book coming out on March 1st. We are waiting to hear whether or not it's a book he co-authored. But I am going to smack myself in the face. No, I'm not. It's a book he co-authored with Steve Diamond, and we are waiting to hear if Steve Diamond is also going to be coming on the show with them. We'd like to have both authors. So we don't know if Steve's coming on, but we do know that Larry has been confirmed for the 5th. So we're looking forward to that. And that's everybody we've got for authors right now. We are scurrying about to get some new people on the show. And I'm supposed to watch that the zombie show for next week so we can talk about it. I've watched the first episode though, and it was a good episode. I liked it. I promised you I'd watch it, Dornall, and I will.
Hey, I can count on you to watch. Everybody can count on you to watch a zombie movie or zombie show.
That's true, actually. So, it's shamefully true.
Hey, everybody's got their vice.
Let's see. I'm trying to remember if there's anything else coming up. I've asked a couple of other indie authors if they and editors if they want to come on the show. We haven't gotten responses back yet, so we'll see. I think that's it. So thanks everybody for coming and listening live. This has been Geek Gab. We are here just about every week, just about the same time. YouTube.com/GeekGab. YouTube.com/GeekGab. Or you can catch us on the Apple iTunes Store, the Google Play Store, and SoundCloud.com to listen to us on the device of your choice. Thanks everyone who listens later on those platforms. If you want to participate in the chat, always feel free to drop by on Saturday. Although I was reminded this week by one of the editors who was setting up Sky and JB that he lives in France and finds it difficult to come and listen to the show live at 2 a.m. And I'm like, no, yeah, that's reasonable. I find that really, really reasonable. So, but if you can, come and listen live, participate in the chat, because we have some awesome listeners who always have an interesting and great discussion. Or if you want to listen later, come and watch it on YouTube, because they preserve the chat for the future. You can just, while you're listening to the show, read the chat as it scrolls along and be edified. We are signing out for today, but don't you worry, don't you fret. We will be back.